Hey, Ghost Machine fans, this one's for you. Welcome to the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, episode 90. We're in the middle of a subway ride for the ages as Rose Hornsby and Zachary Halo speed through the depths of New York en route to meet the first appearance of a brand new Ghost Machine character. I'm Nick, and as always, I'm joined by my better half, Snoggle. My dear, how do you fare this evening? It's 2026.
It's 2026. I think it's going to be an excellent year, personally and professionally, and for comics. I'm hyped.
I'm fired up, and it is going to be a wonderful year ahead. There's so much that we're excited about. Hopefully some more new Ghost Machine stuff is being announced a little bit later this month as well. But as usual, we would like to shout out a fellow creator out there on the interwebs. And this is a creator, if you go to Instagram, it's probably on TikTok too, but on Instagram, it's LJ Collects. So that's like L like Larry, J like Johnson, Collects, plural, COLLECTS. And LJ was actually the winner of our Nuclear Winter Week 3 giveaway. And this, yeah, so shout out to him for winning that. That was awesome. Well, it might have been week 2. I can't remember. He was one of the winners. And this guy, a week ago, comes out, posts a reel online. He's giving away a copy of the Rook Exodus Deluxe hardcover so he could pay it forward and help beat that Ghost Machine drum. I thought it was a super cool thing to do. So make sure to check out LJ Collects. His account has a lot of cool comic book stuff. I've even seen him do I think Rob Liefeld sent him some Youngblood comics. Seems like a really cool social media creator on there. So make sure to check it out. And thanks for the Ghost Machine love, man, as always. But enough about our strange friends on the internet, because Snoggle is back in the newsroom.
Strange friends.
Well, stranger friends, meaning you're a stranger, but you're my friend.
I love that. Well, I'm in the newsrooms, and I got to tell you, I think that everyone is still recovering from New Year's Eve because we don't have a ton of news. But what we do have is this. Today is Wednesday, January 7th, and we would like to remind you that the Ghost Machine Comics Wiki is looking for contributors. Not savvy? Don't worry, neither am I. No problem. Send us an email at ghostmachinefans@gmail.com, and we'll tell you how to get involved. And by we, I mean Nick.
Yes. That is some awesome news and a reminder for the community that there is a Ghost Machine Wiki on Fandom, which is like a free wiki making site that I found a while ago because there's a really good Hellboy wiki there. And so we made a Ghost Machine one. It's been there since we launched this thing, and it's pretty bare bones. But when you hear that, if you've never done this stuff before, like I hadn't, you're like, well, I don't know how to do a wiki, so I probably can't help them. Or like, I probably have to do something special to qualify to help them or whatever. The reality is that we just show you and get you in there, and you'll see like there's an article in there for Redcoat 12, for example, or there's an article in there for Nate the Nuclear Knight. And everything is separated. There's issues. There's an issues section. There's a character section. There's like all the content is separated in that way. And so what you'll find is like the foundation is there, but I don't have time to write all of the articles to describe Redcoat 12 or Nate the Nuclear Knight and then do cool things where like people's names pop up in the paragraph and you can click it to go to another article in the wiki, just like Wikipedia. I can do all those cool things, but if you all want to keep listening to podcasts and other fun stuff that we do, we need some more help. And it's as simple as hopping in there, typing your thoughts. It goes into a thing, and then we can approve it. I do know that Cameron Gill out in the UK, he has copied and pasted the content from some of the bio pages into the character pages, because what it also does is it makes you credit where the information came from. So if you're not someone that wants to go type all this up yourself or come up with your own description of these things, but you found that somewhere else someone has done so, the whole idea of a wiki is to put that into that and then just footnote it that it came from somewhere else. So we're really just trying to create this awesome general receptacle of cool Ghost Machine stuff.
Good. I think it's great.
Almost as great as the comic book we're going to talk about today, which is Hornsby and Halo number 12. Now, number 13 came out late December. We're using this as a catch-up episode because we don't have any new releases today. We're going to do the same thing with number 13 when the time is apt. But this was a pretty significant issue. It is probably going to behoove you to grab this issue if it's still at your local comic book shop, because it might be. I don't think people realize that this issue featured what's probably a significant first appearance for this series. But if you are going to go to your local comic book shop and snag it, you'll have two options because there are two covers.
There are two covers.
What'd you think of the first cover, Snoggle?
Well, the first cover is by Peter Sneyberg and John Cleese. I really like it. It's got essentially all the really big characters we've seen so far in their true forms, too, which I think is pretty cool. I like how it's gradient from, like, at the top are the people who are in between, like they're not on the good side or the bad side. And then it slowly color-wise goes down from that like light blue, which is angelic, to the red, which is demonic. That looked good.
Super good. And it does have Sydney, the adjudicator, and even behind him is one of those creatures that puts you in its belly. The second cover I really liked. I'm not familiar with this artist, but it's Andre Bresson and Maury Hollowell. So Maury, we've seen Maury a couple of times recently, lending his colors. This one, though, is just Zach. And it looks like he's with the Heavenly Host, like rising up with other members of the Heavenly Host up farther, up higher. But you don't see any kind of infernal stuff. This is all Zach. Kind of makes you feel like there should be a corresponding one, like where Rose is on the other side and she's facing the other way or something.
Yeah. Or it could have been a wraparound cover.
Yeah, it could have been.
But it's cool.
It is. So, liking that, I hope we see some more from Andre. But it's time to dive in. So that makes this your official spoiler pause for Hornsby and Halo number 12.
But we can't start the episode without going over the creators. Can you give us a creator roll call?
Sure. 2026. Things are a-changing. We have Peter J. Tomasi and Peter Sneyberg, which are our creators. We have our usual creative team, the double Peters, Peter squared, Peter J. Tomasi and Peter Sneyberg. And John Cleese, as you mentioned on the A cover, is the colorist. He's also the colorist for the book. And our monarch, our czar, our king of letters, Rob Lee.
And the book starts off with a wham. Lots of whams. Wham, 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 wham. Almost bringing us back to the 80s.
I was going to say, it sounds like a band. But who's a whamming? It's somebody we haven't seen in like several issues.
Man, this poor guy, he is just stuck on the moon. Speaking in his weird triangle in different direction language.
He is. Yeah. So we've got Sydney, the adjudicator, still stuck in the thing that, like, it looks like a kind of like a geode or something, a purple
Mm-hmm.
geode. And he's speaking in his what looks like the angelic speak that we've seen before, even though we know he's supposedly a neutral party. And it looks like the wham is because it's not a sphere, he's whamming it to roll it a little bit every time. So he's like whamming his own hamster wheel
Yeah.
across the moon until he finally makes it to the
The
moon
moon
lander.
lander. And
Yeah.
I'm glad they put that there because it really just clears up any kind of controversy.
What about whether the moon landing was real?
Yes.
Funny. There you go. Yeah, Peter Tomasi said it.
Yep.
I thought that was his way of telling us that the adjudicator may or may not have been aware of where he was, and that's how he realizes it, like definitively or whatever.
Yeah. Because he's just like, oh, here's that little plaque they left, and they left this thing here.
And so, like, we get that though, and we're like, "Ooh, what new development is gonna be there?" And then, in the middle of things, we get thrust back into the situation in New York City, which picks right back up after where the last issue began.
It starts with, of course, our bad angel and they're both kind of devious. I think devious is the better word to use in a comic that's, quote unquote, good versus evil, right?
Yeah.
So our devious plotters are just observing the parents getting taken into jail.
Devious plotters being Domino and Beazle watching from the car.
Mm-hmm. And they assumed they're police officers right now.
Right, because they're in a police vehicle. And we see the usual parallel between the two families, right? Because the Hornsby family, they're like, officers, whatever, don't worry about us. Go into the city and find our daughter. She is alone. And it's just almost dark, like that's the representation of that. And then on the other side of it, Zach's parents are giving your kind of like typical, like, yeah, you'll never catch me. You'll never get me. Yeah, don't touch me, you crapper. Like,
and the cops have to bring up to them, like, hey, do you have a picture of your son who is apparently missing as well as their daughter? And they're like, I don't really have a photo on me. We don't really do that.
Yeah.
Which is really sad to me. I have multiple pictures of, like, obviously on my phone, but let's say I didn't have my phone. I have a picture of Bruce in my wallet, in my car, like,
yeah,
multiple.
And the mom says he could be in the background of some of my business selfies. That's like a metaphor for the whole character right there. And as that continues, though, and Beazle and Domino transform and continue to kind of banter, you get the sense that they're kind of like, I don't know, idiot villains or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know they're accomplishing what they're set out to do, so we can't call them like dumb, but they're like comic relief villains, because as they're doing this, they seem like really low level people from, heaven and hell or whatever that are just trying to mess with stuff because they're annoyed with the status quo. But like potentially what they're doing could have massive ramifications, but they're like bickering over silly things and like telling one's telling the other to stop thinking for a while. And like they're clearly not like buddies. But that's all we get. We get that quick comparison between the two, and then we're right back on the subway because the end of the other one, they both came to the city, they both got a headache, they both were dehydrated, and they both ended up on the subway transformed.
Yeah, fully transformed too.
Yeah. And they're quickly like, oh, hey, you're here. I knew your family was here, blah, blah, blah. I've had a headache. Do you have a headache? And they kind of have a routine when weird stuff happens and they end up together where they compare things.
They're getting a better rapport. I do like, while all of this is happening, the background of the guy drinking on the subway, who is dressed up like a superhero as well. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
But he's like, man, this is really good. 100% proof pure hitch hooch. Like, oh?
Yeah, that one made me wonder, is that because Peter Tomasi wrote That's What's on the Bottle? Or is that because Peter Snaberg wanted to make a detail, like add detail to the alcohol bottle?
I have no idea, but I love it.
Yeah. I like how the two of them, Zach and Rose, are talking, and she asks him, "Are you stressed?" And he says, "I'm 13. I'm always stressed."
And then, of course, they do the thing. Well, my mom and dad are going to flip out. Mine don't even care. And then we've got our drunk dude who's like, excuse me, are you kids? He thinks they're in costumes.
He does. And he even, as they go back and forth, he even tells them eventually that, like, he's not that impressed with their costumes or whatever. But they do allude to the fact they're like, I feel like I'm being pulled somewhere. I'm like being pulled in the direction this train is going, but now I'm being pulled off the train. I have to get off. And that's why they have to use the emergency brake.
Yeah.
Because it's not a normal place that the train stops at.
And they get out.
They do, and it's because they're being drawn in a particular direction. So they're like in the middle of a subway tunnel. They get out, they're walking on the tracks opposite that train. And I do like all the color in here. I do think that John does a good job of showing the difference between the two and the way the light goes.
Yeah.
And it's neat because it's like you can tell this is an area where there's nobody else. Because with that kind of gray, steamy, whatever.
They're running through the tunnels, and then they get to a wall that is pulling them, kind of like the wall of Diagon Alley for all of our Harry Potter fans. Or really the wall between platforms 9 and 3/4, but I digress. Basically, they're about to say, like, are we going to punch through this wall? And Zach's like, I wonder if we can walk right through. And he does. And then he pulls her through, which I really like that bit of storytelling.
Because it made you wonder, like, why is she not equally bold or whatever? Because she does touch the wall, so she can tell that it's penetrable or whatever. I wanted to know more about the hallway that they enter.
Yeah.
Because it has a bunch of, like, paintings. It looks like several of them, when they first enter this hallway with all this lighting, we see somebody on the left that looks kind of like Napoleon Bonaparte. We see somebody on the right that looks like the Blue Boy painting, but just him like bust up. And then we see another painting in the second panel, which looks like pilgrims talking to Native Americans. And that's when Rose says, I'm not sure this is such a good idea. This whole city trip with both of our parents coming at the same time felt weird from the get-go. And so like that, because there's multiple paintings where they are there. Looks like there are 3 paintings, all that have Native Americans. I'm just curious what the heck these paintings are telling and why they're here.
Yeah, I think at some point we will know, I do think it's interesting that she's being much more hesitant than usual. But I would feel the same way if I was her, like looking at this long hallway that I magically walked through a wall. It's very obvious that they were both bamboozled into getting there. And so she's like, this feels weird. I don't think this is a good idea. And Zach's like, yeah, same, but let's just go deal with it head on.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hear music.
They do. And it's musical notes that are like upbeat, kind of like that's the vibe I get from those musical notes. Do you think those are Rob Lee's musical notes?
I don't know. Maybe.
Made me think maybe they are, just because like that's usually where we would see letters in that way.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe. She hears it and she's like, we need to get out of here. And he's like, whatever, we can handle it. You're a devil and I'm a freaking angel. And then we turn to the next page. And this is a very fun splash page where, again, all over these walls are tons of old photographs. And they see at the bottom of one of those circular staircases, obviously an angel playing the piano.
Well, one would think, but we find out a little bit more about that. But it is a cool page. And at first, I don't know about you, I'm not musically inclined, but I did get a sense that this was like upbeat music and probably not classical, even though the aesthetic and the vibe would make one think he's probably playing something classical. Yeah.
But I bet, I mean, for me, that would still feel creepy to like be walking down a hall and
I would start to raise my eyebrow, and I would feel safer, honestly. As soon as I heard the melody was that upbeat thing, even like, and I recognized it before he was actually singing, I would be like, all right, well, I don't think we're going to die if he's playing Great Balls of Fire. So let's get on down there and check it out.
Yeah, great.
Well, so what I'm saying is you kind of get the upbeat sense early, and then to me, when they've got multiple panels with that, and then they get to the panel that's goodness gracious, and then Great Balls of Fire is this big one where you're like, oh, that's what's being played here. This isn't like some creepy thing. And I think the pacing of it is useful to the reader.
Yeah.
Because it sets you up to continue the jovial nature of everything, which we see because our heroes are being pursued by our knucklehead villains, who are fully transformed in the subway, and they're following the energy trail because apparently they can see Rose and Zach's energy trails.
Yeah.
And follow them.
And then one more thing about this man playing the piano at the bottom of the staircase. The whole scene kind of reminds me of Meatloaf in the music video, I Do Anything for Love.
That's funny. I think that's what they had in mind.
Maybe. One can hope. But we do have our devious divine characters who are also following the trail, which is kind of, I would agree with you. I know you said it, but it's neat that they can follow them.
Yeah, and it also, I believe that really all they're trying to do was separate them from their parents, get them together, and then follow them. They don't know they're going to end up here. Is that how you read it too?
Yes.
Okay.
I do really like the dynamic between these two because there's a lot of comical back and forth. They're following, and then all of a sudden, Beazle says, I smell dinner. All these rats are... I'm not certain, by the way, because the rats didn't go to really attack Rose and Zach like they are Beazle and Domino. Did you find that weird? Like maybe that's something, not like a booby trap, but like a trigger that was put in place in case anyone from the heavens or down below happened upon this lair?
I don't know, but I sure would like that because I was not offended by this page, but I was curious what this page's purpose was. And I don't need it to be more than, well, they're in the subways of New York and they got attacked by rats, and it's a good opportunity to highlight the fact that means the demon wants to eat some rats and the angel wants to kill some rats because they think it's disgusting or whatever, so I don't mind that. But to me, I think there would be a little more to it. So my thought is we don't know yet, but it will be referred back to later. And if it's not, I'm okay with it purely because of the chomp, chomp, chomp panel that Rob Lee gives us.
Oh, 100%. That the green occasionally on the letters is great. That lime green. And then at the end of this scene, it's Beazle. Looks like they went through this wall. Domino, a true detective from hell if there ever was one. Just the banter is great.
Indeed. And it makes you wonder, like, they're both just serving a purpose. It makes Domino seem like she's a lot more in control of what's going on, too.
And she's also like the uptight, you know what I mean? Like one is the idiot and one's like it's Pinky in the brain.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. For sure. But we do know right away that whatever he is, he can recognize what they are because he says we're talking celestial and infernal highborns of the first degree.
And it's, how did you? Oh, right. The wings and glowing stuff. Also love that this man has like, you know, his own little fish tank with alligators and big old fish like down here in the sewers.
Well, yeah, because he flies up a little bit to the top of a mantle of a fireplace to get the fish food and then feeds these fish. I don't think this is his area. He comes here because there's that thing that he always gets cold feet on. So anybody can come here and do this or whatever. So it just so happens to be that, yeah, like there's this fish tank. They look like a combination of piranhas and alligators. But he just feeds them just a little bit. But it's very out of nowhere because Zach is like, how is it that an angel is playing a piano in the New York City subway? And that's when we will learn that he is a nephilim, not an angel.
Yes, half angel, half human.
And I've heard that term before.
Yeah, same.
In many
supernatural.
Yes, in supernatural. I think it's in like a lot of just religious stuff as well. And it points out that when guardian angels were sent back in the day, sometimes they would fall in love with humans. Like that's a story that's in Greek mythology and stuff. It's in lots of different.
100%. Hercules was a Nephilim, right? No, Hercules wasn't a Nephilim.
Might have been. He was like the son of a god or something.
He was. I feel like he was stolen, and I don't remember the whole. I gotta go back and watch that Disney movie. What a great soundtrack. But yes, you are right. There are Nephilims in all mythologies, not just in the biblical sense.
Yeah, and as a result of this happening, this was the reason for the flood because
what a bummer.
Yeah.
Good job, angels.
Well, and it implies, I think, that there's more than one of them, and so the big guy upstairs wasn't too happy about the human race being corrupted and not knowing what kind of powers they'd develop. So that's already some like interesting world building kind of stuff in this world.
Yeah,
where the God might be a little bit different, and ultimately, though, that is the reason for the flood. Then we see this ancient society, like this ancient Sumerian society, where you may notice there's like there's a floating vehicle in the background, by the way. So they had some sort of technology or magic or something. And that's what gets destroyed.
No, those were the aliens.
That it was still floating technology, floating alien technology. I'm not saying it was the aliens, but it was the aliens, is what that guy says.
It's right next to a pyramid, so it had to have been the aliens.
Probably.
I do like the fact that while he's telling his story, the Great Flood, Noah's Ark, is actually Rose finished his story. And he said, glad someone was paying attention in Sunday school, Rose, with the finger guns.
Yeah.
Like this dude already.
And he's got Chuck Taylors and like his whole vibe, but he's flying around, hanging on the chandelier, telling them the rest of the story, and that is that he'll let the Nephilim abandon their like magical powers, surrender their immortality, and have their powers neutralized, and embrace being fully human, flesh and blood, and all that comes with it. But I guess not everybody has done that. But everybody gets drawn to this place because apparently that little, like the thing they're going to get into, I guess because he's saying that even if you're just an angel or a demon, you could come here and give it up. You don't have to be a Nephilim, right?
I don't think they even 100% understand what the quote choice is, because he said, basically, but some of us don't go through with it. And Zach says, through with what? He says, the choice. That's what it's all about. You make it, you live it. And he's saying, no, a couple thousand years, keep changing my mind, leaving, coming back, love and death, and all that.
Then we get the only negative emotion from him, which is when Zach says, you're kind of indecisive. He freaks out and he's like, well, yeah, and I'm depressed when everyone and everything you care about keeps dying. But then he kind of, stretches and gets out of that vibe. But you get the sense of what this guy is. Like, he's stalling but trapped.
Yeah.
And does he or does he not really have to make that change? In his case, it's up to him. But
I like how he says, Yogi, call me Yogi, which sounds like a cover name. Hey, boo-boo.
So I did a little bit of research because I was really curious about that part. And I could be totally wrong. I have no idea. Like, this might not be it. But it could somehow be connected to Shiva in like the Hindu something or other. Because I guess when you look up the first yogi or what that refers to, it's usually referring to that. I don't know. I think they never have said God. They've never said, they've never said this is about God. They've never said this is specifically heaven and hell. They've always said like infernal and highborn and stuff like that. So that makes me wonder if we'll see other stuff kind of intermingled, because the adjudicator is super different. You know what I mean? And the hollowed ones, that's what they're called. The hollowed ones are super different. They're not really they don't really fit into your typical Christianity like mold or whatever, even though angels and demons, quote unquote, do. And then even in here, like, you see the statue that's like Mercury or Hermes. Did you see that? Which is the god of travel and speed. And that's right by that thing that they're going to get in, is where that statue is. So that's Greek stuff too. So it makes me wonder if the Hornsby and Halo story and world is going to evolve into you seeing more about how like mythical figures interact or something like that.
Well, I think it very well could.
And as they are getting into it, it's clear that like this thing you get into doesn't make you make the choice. This thing you get into takes you to someone called the elector, who then is who you presumably elect to make that decision with. So they hop in this thing. It reminds me of like something in a Jules Verne novel, because it's going to use a baffle and wind and to move them through the tunnel. And Zach is able to immediately explain it. And he talks about how he's an analog kid, which Peter talked to us about, if you remember, when he was on the show, which is super cool. And we've seen that before, because he mentions he still listens to a Walkman, because we brought that up. We brought up, hey, he's listening to a Walkman, and it's one of those things where it's benefiting him in this situation, but they let get going down that tunnel, that Rob Lee whoosh.
When all of this is happening, I do think it's a big deal that he says, point of info, once a choice is made, there's no reversing it. And sometimes you make a choice without making a choice.
That's true. We don't know. They might, yeah.
Yeah, but then, they're off the tunnel. Wow.
And then we do get a pretty neat conclusion, which makes me like Yogi. That is that Beazle and Domino show up in this area. And to me, it seems like the two of them should have known what this was, but they don't. So that could be because they're not like high ranking enough, or maybe because they haven't spent enough time on Earth or something. But right away, when Yogi sees them, he recognizes them as rogues from the celestial and infernal planes. And you notice they're not listed as planes, as in planes of existence. They're spelled, it's listed as planes, like the field, the meadow, or whatever.
And then he says, let's dance. Except for, I'm sure it's more like, let's dance.
Yeah. And they're ready. It's like, okay.
And his sword lights on fire. I mean, like, so sweet.
Yeah. I'm envisioning him beating them both. but I guess we'll see.
Yes.
We shall see. No bio at the end of this one, but some cool previews for the next issues that are coming out. And it looks like in the next issue of Hornsby and Halo, sleigh bells ring, and Zach and Rose are listening for once. So
yeah,
we know they don't, at least in the next issue, make a choice that turns them into humans permanently, if the cover has anything to do with it. So another issue completed for the Ghost Machine family Odysseys, which we are quite fond of. But before we finish this episode of the Ghost Machine Fans podcast, we, as usual, have a listener mail, and it's a neat one. I thought this was cool. I got that wrong. Snoggle, would you like to read the fantastic mail?
That's 2026. I'm not going to have to remind you. I love it. Our fantastic mail comes from Captain Harbatkin, which, what a name, who writes, recently there have been several Marvel and DC crossovers. Do you think it's possible that Ghost Machine will ever cross over into its own universes or the universes of other Image comics? I will go first because I think Nick will have a better explanation because mine's pretty short. Anything's possible, right? Like we've already had the Youngblood covers. I feel like all crossovers are possible because DC and Marvel aren't even like the same even realm, right? And they do crossovers. I think anything is possible. I think it'd be really fun. We've already also seen a couple of not direct crossovers, but references from different universes within like little G.I. Joe figures in Family Odyssey comics and stuff like that.
Junkyard Joe. Yeah.
Yes, Junkyard Joe. Junkyard Joe. Whoops.
Okay. We saw Junkyard Joe figures in Hyde Street too. Do you know whose alias Captain Harbatkin is?
No.
Malcolm Reynolds.
Oh. Well,
it's very, it's only said one time. And very few people would know. But that's a super cool name. So thank you for the fantastic mail. I think it's apt because like there is a lot of this going on. There's like Batman and Deadpool. And then that's what Alex Sinclair was talking to us about. Batman Deadpool, and then there's like a Superman Spider-Man thing, and I think there's even more coming after that. One of the Batman Deadpool covers was Batman and Wolverine by Jim Lee, which is sweet. So that's a thing. When I was growing up, they had this thing called Amalgam Comics, which was a short period of time wherein Marvel and DC did combine their characters, and they had characters like Darkclaw, which was a combination of Wolverine and Batman. And they really did them. They did them. I think they did like 6 issues of each one or something, and not much more than that. It wasn't taken particularly seriously. But there was also some Marvel versus DC stuff involved. So is it possible? Sure. We have seen, like Snoggle said, like within the Ghost Machine stuff, little nods, which is really reminiscent of early Image comics, even though that Spawn didn't take place in the same necessarily universe as Savage Dragon or Shadowhawk or Cyberforce, Wildcats, or Youngblood. You would see the characters appear intermittently, and at the time the guys would say like, that's to support my fellow creators book or whatever, whereas now it's all one, actually one company within the publishing house, so it's more like creative nods. But there was an issue of the Rockefellers where we were given this tableau of the multiverse, is the way it was referred to as. And I believe it was because Raina was like looking through time and the multiverses. And to me, that implied that there might be some of that. But the Unnamed in and of itself is so crossover friendly that I think we'll see a lot more of that than what you're describing, Captain. And
Captain.
But back in the Mad Ghost days, there was a Geiger cover or a Junkyard Joe cover that had Spawn on it. it spawns on a lot of covers, image to support image. But so in terms of Ghost Machine having a crossover outside of that, I don't know about that, but I think that it's certainly possible to see stuff within Image happen, and definitely within the 4 universes that Ghost Machine Pro has going on. And if you would like to send us a fantastic mail like Captain Herbakin did, you can do so by emailing ghostmachinefans@gmail.com. And if you'd like to check out all of our other content, including the wiki that Snoggle so illustriously illuminated us all about in the news, you can go to www.ghostmachinefans.com, where you'll find links to that, as well as our social media platforms, the Ghost Machine Comics Reddit, the Ghost Machine Comics Fans Facebook group, and the Ghost Machine Comics Discord. We would love for you to come join the conversation with the community.
Yes. And thank you for joining us tonight on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast.
First appearance of Yogi Podcast.